What's up, guys? Today I want to talk to you all about how to practice to improve. This is a question I get asked a lot. Ginger, what's your practice regimen? What do you do every day to practice? How long do you practice for? And I think a lot of people would be surprised to find out that I don't necessarily have a practice regimen. I don't just do the same thing every single day. The way that I practice and the things that I practice change every single time I actually boot up my setup, right? So to get into this a little bit, I think this is probably the most effective way that people should be practicing. I know a lot of people that say, Ginger, I have like 45 minutes to an hour every single day, and I wrote down on a whiteboard like the things I want to do. I wave shine a peach across the stage. I do this every single day. I practice ledge dashes for 10 minutes. Do you think this is a good practice regimen? And I never necessarily know how to answer that because at the core of it, all you need to do is practice the things that you currently cannot do consistently, aka what you're bad at. So the first step is being honest with yourself and finding out what you need to practice. And I think that there are two really effective ways to go about this. You can either be very mindful when you're playing friendlies and figure out what is the most impactful thing that's affecting the outcome of that match, right? It doesn't have to be like one tiny little optimization. Try to get like the overarching thing, the biggest problem that you can solve, and then that will translate to the best result for you. And if you're not being mindful during practice, I should say friendlies, I guess, then you can go into analysis. And analysis is a much easier way of breaking down all of the interactions in the game, obviously, because you can pause and stuff like that. And it's even easier now. If you guys play net play, you can even use Slippy and just go back. You're playing the friendlies mindfully. You can say to yourself, okay, this is what I think went wrong. Go into your Slippy file, analyze what actually happened, and find out if you were correct the first time, and then go to the practice, go to the lab and figure out how to solve that issue, right? And the reason why, this is an interesting analogy that I drew actually yesterday on my stream that I wanted to bring up to you guys. That if you guys know about speedrunning, like speedrunning a video game, trying to complete a video game as fast as possible. If a speedrunner is trying to achieve the best time and there's 30 whole minutes of time save left in the run, which means they can, optimize their run for another 30 minutes, that runner doesn't just start with the 3-frame optimization wall kick or whatever, There's probably like a skip that they're not doing that would have saved them 10 minutes or something like that, right? So that's what you should start with. Start with the things that are saving you 10 minutes, not 3 frames. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, that's how you're going to achieve the best results. And sometimes, this is like a general rule to follow. Sometimes if those 3-frame optimizations are like the core foundation of how you have to play neutral or something like that, obviously if you can't wave dash, well, that's probably negatively impacting your game. And you're going to have to learn how to wave dash. And obviously it's a very small frame window or whatever, but hopefully you guys understand what I mean. The next thing I wanted to talk about is I love Uncle Punch and I love 20XX. I think those are really, really amazing practice tools, but you have to be careful. You have to practice with intentionality and mindfulness. If you're not doing this at the beginning of your practice, if you're just throwing yourself at it and not paying attention to your form, you're just doing it over and over again, it's not going to be nearly as effective. You have to have a conscious learning process going on before you can just work your way into that subconscious learning and subconscious understanding, right? I always think of it like a basketball player. If you're shooting free throws, I guess you could learn by shooting, 1 million free throws and just kind of doing it. But what's going to be more effective is you shoot a free throw, you analyze where the ball went, and you thought about your form, exactly how it felt when you threw the ball, exactly your posture, you know what I mean? Breaking down exactly what is actually going wrong. So the next time you shoot the ball, you're trying to address some of those problems, not just do it again. And I see a lot of people practicing on Uncle Punch that are just doing it over and over and over and over and over, and I swear they're not paying attention. So when this actually comes up in the middle of a match, do you think that you're going to be able to do it? No, right? So I think that practicing with intentionality and mindfulness is important regardless of what you're using to practice, whether it's 20XX, Vanilla Melee, or Uncle Punch, any of these things. You always have to do that. And if you feel yourself slipping away mentally, you have to stop and refocus. You need to pay attention to how you're not paying attention, if that makes sense, and take the time to consistently practice mindfully. Drug Fox, I've talked about kind of my idea behind practice before and breaking down what you're bad at. And something that I used to do that I still do occasionally is I would boot up Melee and I would go to Battlefield. I'd practice for 10 minutes and I would just kind of move around the stage, practice ledge dashing, practice a bunch of different things, and kind of see what I was messing up. And then I would go practice those things that I was messing up. But what Drug Fox told me, and what I think is pretty effective, is like you should just have certain things down at this point. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to practice wave shining. Let's say if you're Fox, you don't have to practice wave shining every single day of your life. You don't have to like go into it and spend 5 minutes wave shining to see if you can do it or not. If you mess it up during friendlies later that day after practice or something, then, okay, well, let's hit the grind. Apparently I cannot wave shine as well as I thought I could, right? But there should be some basic fundamental tech skill that you don't need to spend time seeing whether or not you can do. Essentially, it just wastes the time, and I know a lot of people don't have 3 to 4 hours to give to practice every day. A lot of you guys have jobs, a lot of you guys are in school, just busy with anything, right? So if you have a half an hour, you want to make it worth it. So practice the things that you can't do consistently and make sure you understand the things that you can do consistently. And the more mindful you are when you're practicing, the more apparent this will be to you. The last thing that I want to leave you guys with is just a little thing, because I know some people are coming here looking for some sort of practice regimen, and something that I find really helpful. If you guys have an hour to practice, what I would suggest is putting on a 10-minute timer on every stage. If you're using Uncle Punch, obviously you're going to be practicing little different trials and things like that. But if you're using 20XX, which I think is maybe a slightly more effective if you understand how to use it kind of practice method. If you're using 20XX, if you're using vanilla Melee, get a 10-minute timer instead of an 8-minute timer like is like legal in matches, and practice 10 minutes on every stage. It gives you an hour, right? There are 6 legal stages. You get a full hour of practice in, and I think a lot of people really ignore practicing on different stages. Not everybody's practicing on Fountain. Not everyone's practicing on Pokemon Stadium. You know what I mean? A lot of people will go to Yoshi's or Battlefield. They won't go to FD because it doesn't have platforms, so they can't practice for shield drops or move around like they'd like to. But like, for instance, like ledge dashing is completely different on certain stages, right? So these are like, well, not, I shouldn't say completely different, but it's different on certain stages. And there are just different platform spacings, different platform heights, all these different things you have to be used to. And if you're not used to it, it's going to come out in your tournament play. So the last thing as well is that I also have 99 stocks on, just because I like to see how many times I had killed myself attempting to do things within that 10 minutes. It kind of gives me a gauge of how consistent I am at certain things, like especially if I'm practicing ledge dashes or just ledge play in general. If I'm killing myself, 40 times within the span of 10 minutes, I probably have an issue, right? So hopefully that helps you kind of structure the way that you guys want to go about practice. I can't just give you, you want to practice shield pressure 5 minutes, you want to practice ledge dashes 10 minutes. Like, I can't give you that sort of breakdown because it has to be on the individual level. You guys have to understand what you're bad at so you can start fixing it, right? Maybe you are bad at ledge dashing, so practicing 10 minutes of ledge dashing every day is a good thing. Some people hit every ledge dash. They don't need to be practicing those 10 minutes of ledge dashing. So like I said, hopefully this helps. If you guys have any questions, always feel free to drop in the comments. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you next time. See ya.